And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, the Smash News Network, etc. Congratulations on realizing our channel exists. If you're frightened of the sun, please stop. Here's some imagery of it the last day from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Two major sunspot groups and a coronal mass ejection warning. Solar flare warning also still in effect. Let's take a look at the viewpoint from Lagrange point 5. So at Lagrange point 5, we've got a spacecraft called Stereo A. This is the orientation that it views the sun. It's the left pane here. There's your Stereo A coronagraph. There is a coronal mass ejection unfolding as we make the video. Looking at Lagrange point 1, no coronal mass ejections have left the corona around the Earth at the moment. So there you go. The right pane is the Lagrange point 1 SOHO spacecraft, the LASCO C3 coronagraph. And it's not out of the corona yet, but it's on its way. So that's where that's located once again, Lagrange point 1 between the Earth and Sun. Here's some more imagery. This is 94 angstroms, and we've got some new type of composites to show you today. We've showed you 171. This is 94 angstroms. And this is a composite of 94 and 171 angstroms. It shows great features. And we've got some spectacular close-ups for the end of the video of these two giant sunspot groups. Both have featured a bit of a growth of umbra here. This one down here has grown. This one up here has both grown and started to spread the umbrae apart, increasing the likelihood for additional solar flares. Again, coronal mass ejection and solar flare warning both in effect today. Here's 304 angstroms ionized helium. This is great at showing the filaments like the one that is on its way out of the solar corona as we make the video. And here's a close-up of this southwestern sunspot group. You can see some C-class flares coming out of there. Let that play through a second time. And the main star of the show is sunspot 2880, which is this one up in the northeast. Don't be surprised to see major flares like M or even X class out of this sunspot. It's quite magnetically complex. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now up over 100, having suddenly rose here in the past 24 hours. So here is the 1-year chart of the radial flux. This looks like it needs to be updated. It's from solon.info. It's actually up here now. And the red line below there is the sunspot number. Again, that's from solon.info/solar. Here's the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, and we do have geomagnetic unrest and a geomagnetic storm forecast for tomorrow morning. So late tonight on September 30th and early tomorrow on October 1st, expecting a geomagnetic storm to onset from the coronal mass ejection, which we forecasted and then reported on the 28th. I think it's going to be a KP6. NOAA thinks it's going to be a KP5. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Let's look at global seismicity. We've got some upticks in volcanism. Let's see what's going on with earthquakes. Just moderate activity here, nothing to write home about. No major quakes over the past 24 hours. Looks like a lull in earthquake activity, really. Do we even have a 5 magnitude? Small deep quake at Japan at 4.5, 137 kilometers estimated depth. A bunch of earthquakes on Hawaii as some vents have opened at Kilauea, so perhaps some new eruptive activity starting out there. Also, La Palma has created some new real estate. We talked about it yesterday briefly. There is a new lava delta. Perhaps a new pier for boating after things calm down on the Isle of La Palma. Here's some imagery of it. There you go. New real estate forming before your very eyes. Suwanosejima also exploding. It's producing a 10,000-foot ash plume. I think that's an uptick at Suwanosejima. So here's the information about Kilauea. Again, new eruptive fissures opening here. New lava flows. A vent opened on the west wall of the crater. I'm not sure if that's Pu'u'o'o but a bunch of magmatic activity there in lava tubes and so on. Fuego in Guatemala also exploding, 17,000-foot ash plume over Guatemala. Sangay in Ecuador exploding, 20,000-foot ash plume from Sangay. Revenador in that same country of Ecuador also exploding, flight level 150. It's a 15,000-foot ash plume. Sabancaya exploding, 26,000-foot ash plume over Peru. Nevados de Chilean now appearing on the list. Looks like some effusive eruption going on there. A change in the discharge rate. And 2 lava domes currently accumulating in the Nicanor crater, observed in satellite images. Also Nyiragongo. Effusive activity continues there, and a formation of a new lava lake, so certainly a volcanic uptick. A great reminder to not pole vault the caldera and to do visit the links below the video. Please support our channel via our merch. It's quite spectacular. Tell your friends and foes, science noobs and science pros, not to pole vault the caldera with some of our delightful merch. Thanks again, everybody who picked some up. I think somebody placed an order just yesterday. Did you know we're also on BitChute? We put up an exclusive that we streamed live to Twitch yesterday. Thanks to our YouTube subscribers. If you are new to the channel, please do press like and subscribe. And tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros about the content. Once again, congratulations on discovering its existence. Also, thanks to our patrons, please cancel your Patreon and become Smash Team members. The site is vastly superior. Here's a little rundown of what's going on. If you click on posts, this is what you'll see depending on your level. So there is a bronze, a silver, a gold, and a paid-up gold level at the Smash Team. SmashOmash.com/Smash Team. Vastly superior. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. You can find links on the homepage to the merch shop and to the Smash Team. Thanks again, Smash Team. And it's going to be a spectacular Smashtober. I'll talk in a stilted voice for the whole month. Also, twitch.tv/SmashOmash. Regular live streams coming there. Let's look at some magnetic data. The GOES magnetometer. Actually, 2 of them. The GOES 16 and GOES 17 magnetometers. Showing some divergence here once again recently. Otherwise, in a fairly steady range here. Nothing to write home about. Let's take a look at the current sheet. And Earth is now in a South Pole current sheet. I would expect Earth to remain there unless we see some additional activity like sunspots. For now, the sunspot 2880 will be in charge of the heliospheric current sheet. And this South Pole current sheet shown here in red. Earth is well within it. Here's a line of sight view. And you can see the B field location as a result of that blue line being pulled around up towards sunspot 2880 on the solar magnetogram right here. Here's the coronal hole plot. And we finally see additional coronal hole activity here. Expected to continue in a spectacular fashion over the coming months and indeed years. Some South Pole-oriented coronal holes there showing up toward the end. They're pretty diffuse and not very well defined. And here's the best imagery we can get of them from the SDO. It's 193 angstroms. Mainly this one down here is what we'll be talking about. Fairly diffuse coronal hole system down there. It is South Pole-oriented. Again, solar flare and coronal mass ejection warning in effect. The likelihood of major flares is now greater than 50%, reaching up to 64% here as sunspot 2871, sunspot 2877 actually, and sunspot 2880 are more than capable of producing major flares. Speaking of flares, there were some C-class intensifications here over the past 24 hours. No major flares. I would consider a major flare M or higher. No major spikes in the proton flux here. Don't be surprised to see some if we do see a major flare. Let's look at the real-time solar wind next. The data is back, and everybody can stop conjecturing that NASA is hiding plasma or whatever nonsense people came up with yesterday about the missing data. Current conditions are solar wind density about 7.3 protons per cubic centimeter, solar wind speed 404 kilometers per second. Fairly unremarkable, the coronal hole wind stream has largely subsided here. KP index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, is at 1, each bar here representing 3 hours of global geomagnetic data. Speaking of geomagnetic data, here's the Space Weather Modeling Framework's Geospace Magnetosphere movie. It's 4 hours of data, as interpolated by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. It is a model, folks. It's derived from all sorts of things, from the solar wind to magnetometers to electron flux and more. And it's looking fairly homogeneous here over the past 4 hours. Probably no surprise there to our regular viewers. We show it daily on the Daily Space Weather. Here's 4 hours of ground magnetic perturbations. Now you're looking at nanotesla, also modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. And since there is a polar excursion going on that people are unnecessarily frightened of, we show it daily. And since it refreshed, we'll let it play through. We don't edit the videos. We keep it raw, like the Wu-Tang Clan. Anyway, nothing too spectacular happening there, according to the Space Weather Modeling Framework. Next, a diagram of the solar system. Now that we've moved out of magnetic information, now we're covering like gravitational and inertial information. Here's where things are located now. Mars looking lonely. There's where things will be in a week, just coming off the full moon the new moon on October 6th. Shout out to all my reverse werewolves who sleep well around new moon and don't go out consuming human flesh and worshiping the devil. Next, a star chart. I used in-the-sky.org. Mine's facing the south, and the moon's about to cross the galactic plane. Oh my God. Oh my God, what an event. The yellow line here is the ecliptic, the path the sun will take across the sky here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Today's cosmology segment's integrated into the daily space weather video. It's got to be pretty short. It does include the astronomy picture of the day, which is a bunch of hydrogen alpha imagery. And these are, quote, star-forming and, quote, regions in the Triangulum galaxy, located a mere 3 million light years away. So if you want to check that out yourself, it's at apod.nasa.gov. You can also find a link to the NGC, the New General Catalog 604, another interesting galaxy viewed in hydrogen alpha. The most common element in space, folks. Let's talk about the only cosmic ray point source. Well, one of the only cosmic ray point sources known, Cygnus X3, the little friend of the star that's 10 times the output heat, brightness, and stellar wind of the sun. The brightest intrinsic object visible from Earth is indeed Deneb, the tail of the swan, the area where the ancients believed all life came from and will return on death. Anyway, it's in an ultra-quiescent state here. You can see it's way down here at the 0 line. Cygnus X3, we want to see it studied in radio frequency before, actually during, its transition to an X-ray loud state. There's a huge plume of plasma in between us and Cygnus X3. That's today's cosmology segment. Let's continue on to look at charging hazards. We don't see any at the moment. And let's talk electron flux. Here's the 1-year chart of the relativistic electrons surrounding planet Earth and the lower Van Allen belt primarily. Here's a 3-day chart of the relativistic electrons measured by the GO 16 and 17. We may get into warning levels today. You could see some minor communications breakdowns as a result of that. Here's the forecast. And I would forecast for this to be a little bit higher here. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. Here are Earth's Van Allen belts, also showing distances in miles to things like GPS satellites, which orbit at about 12,500 miles of altitude. And here's a total electron content forecast, the electron density through which those GPS satellites must communicate with your handset. And everything's looking fairly organized here. Again, we may see minor warning levels today. Also, we're going to show the F ionosphere layer located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Here's that of vibrational frequency. The units is megahertz, millions of vibrations per second. And we're seeing lots of high-frequency anomalies as well as some low-frequency anomalies. Low-frequency anomalies primarily in the Central Pacific Ocean. Here's the anomaly map showing your departure from the 30-day median in megahertz. And we'll bring up the latest images. There's 9 o'clock universal time. You can see some high-frequency anomalies in the Pacific Ocean, as well as in the South Atlantic, it looks like. Here's more. Bonus features. Here they are. It's the latest hydrogen alpha imagery of the closest star from the Lermonth, Australia ground-based solar observatory. There you go. I'll reiterate, coronal mass ejection and solar flare warnings, both in effect. A coronal mass ejection is unfolding as we recorded the video. Another one expected to arrive late today, early tomorrow on October 1st. Here's the latest intensity gram. And here's the refresh of the colorized magnetogram. Again, 2 major sunspot groups at play here. Sunspot 2871 is chillin'. 2877 is capable of producing major flares like M or X class. Same deal with sunspot 2880. There are the fields, beta gamma class, beta gamma class. Here comes some additional images from the SDO in the composite wavelength we talked about earlier, 94 and 171 angstroms. There's sunspot 2880. Quite a spectacular sunspot indeed. Here's this active region setting in the northwest. And last but not least, here's sunspot 2877 and 2871. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. Again, please visit the links below the video, support the channel, and may that solar wind be at your back.